Welcome back to an all-new edition of the His and Her Money Show with America's #1 money couple. I'm Talent.
And I'm Ty, and we're from hisandhermoney.com, where we're managing money, marriage, and everything in between.
Well, we're super glad that you guys are back here for another great edition of the show because we have another fantastic debt-free story lined up for you. We're going to be talking with Stephanie, and she's a blogger at sixfiguresunder.com, and she has an incredible story of paying off 6 figures worth of debt. Her story is incredible and inspirational because of all the twists and turns and the massive amount of debt that she and her husband paid off. And for a lot of you, you think that your debt is too surmountable. Well, guess what? This story right here will show you that that's not true.
That's right, and I loved how she even started a blog to help her pay off her debt. So, check it out.
Hey, Stephanie, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, thanks. It's good to be here.
We're super glad that you're on the show today because you have quite the journey to debt freedom that we are excited for you to share with our audience today because it's going to show them that debt freedom is real and that it can be accomplished. But before we get into your story, can you just take a moment and introduce yourself to the audience and let them know what you're all about?
Yeah, I'm Stephanie. I'm a mom of 4 little ones, ages 8 and under. My husband is an attorney, and I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I blog.
Love that, love that. So now, you were once deep in debt, you and your husband both. So can you tell our audience a little bit about your debt? What was it? How much was it? What type of debt it was?
Yeah, so my husband and I both graduated with our undergraduate degrees without any debt, and then after a year or two of working, my husband decided he wanted to go back to school for a JD MBA, a law and business degree. And, you know, he had a good scholarship and we went to a good school. After 4 years, we walked away with the JD MBA, and I was afraid to look and see how much debt we had. But about a year later, after he graduated, I looked, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was over $130,000.
So how did that make you feel once you took a look at that number?
I wanted to throw up. I was so sick to my stomach. Like, seeing the amount of debt was one thing, and then, you know, crunching the numbers and seeing how much that debt would grow with the interest over the years. Oh my goodness, it was sickening.
Yeah.
So you said you let a whole year go by. What did you all think the number was prior to ripping that envelope open and seeing what the actual figure turned out to be?
And why did you take so long? Was it because of fear?
Yeah, I think our plan was to buy a house. We were saving up for a house, and we were on the income-based repayment. My husband's job that he started out at was, I think he was making $39,000. And at the time, we had 3 kids, so a family of 5. So with the income-based repayment, we didn't have any payments due. We didn't have to pay anything that whole first year. And actually, the whole time we were paying it off, we didn't ever have any payments due. And so there was nothing forcing us to look at it. And I think my husband had a better idea of how much it was than I did. But yeah, I was just afraid.
Yeah.
So you had the moment there. You tore open the envelope. You found out the actual total. Was that the thing that set you guys on a course to debt freedom, or did some time go past again before you guys kind of had your wake-up call? Talk to us about how you went from seeing that grand total for the first time to starting your journey to debt freedom.
Yeah, so I was in the thrift store one day and I saw Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. And I had heard Crystal Payne talk about Dave Ramsey. I didn't really know much about him, but I had heard good things about him and his ideas. So I grabbed the book at the thrift store and took it home and read it in a day or two. And that's when it hit me. I thought, I need to find out how much debt we really have. And so that's when my husband and I looked it up. We ran the numbers and started freaking out.
So talk about that conversation that you had with your husband. I think that there are a lot of spouses that listen to our show, whether it be via podcast or YouTube, And they pretty much come to the awakening first, like, wait a minute, I think we need to get out of debt. But they have a difficult time approaching their spouse. Tell our audience, how did you approach your husband about it, and how did the conversation somewhat go?
My husband and I, for starters, we have an amazing relationship. We always have. And so it was actually pretty easy. I just brought it up and said, hey, babe, I think maybe instead of saving for a house, maybe we should just go hardcore and pay off this debt. And I gave him the book, he read it, we both prayed about it and talked about it and made the decision. It was actually pretty easy once we saw the numbers and, thought about it. We really had a peace that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I think one of the key points that you brought up, you gave your husband the book and he also read it. I think sometimes we're so busy preaching or telling our spouse, look, we got to do this, X, Y, Z. And they just hear our voice. But sometimes if they hear it from someone else, maybe it's in a book or via podcast or someone else talks to them, sometimes they can better grasp, the whole idea of, okay, maybe we should do this.
Yeah.
So now that you guys both read the book, you guys are like, yo, we got to do this. We can't have this debt around. And you guys launch out. So from start to finish, how long did this process take you guys?
So it was about 3 years, just over 3 years from the time so it was a year out from finishing law school that we had this epiphany that we really need to do this. And so it was May of 2013. And then we finished paying it off in July of 2016. So just over 3 years.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. So tell us, what did you guys do practically? So what were some of the strategies or techniques that you all put in place in order to knock out, over $130,000 in 3 years? That's amazing.
Yeah, actually, when we paid it all off, it was $144,046. So it started out at 130 something, but then with all the interest, it was more.
Wow.
So practically our method was reduce expenses to the bare minimum and then work on. So for us, that looked like living in my in-laws' unfinished basement. We had actually moved there. We moved across the country after law school. And so we were living in my in-laws' basement temporarily thinking, oh, we're saving for a house right now and then we'll get a house and then we'll worry about our debt. But when we decided to pay off the debt, we thought, man, this is our expenses are never going to be as low as they are right now while we're living in the basement. So this is really the perfect time for us to pay this off. So between not having a rent or mortgage payment, driving old cars, we both have, our cars are 97, 200,000 miles or more on them. We keep our food budget really low. We make sacrifices to keep our expenses really low. And so at the time when we started, my husband was making $39,000 a year. And so for the first 2 years of our debt payoff journey, he was making that. But I've, built up an income from blogging, and 2 years after we started, he changed jobs, so he makes more at his new job, and he also started a law firm on the side. So he essentially has 2 jobs right now. One, it's a lot of work, but it paid off. It's worth it. And in addition to the spending less and earning more, a practical thing that really helps us is that we live on last month's income. We're a month ahead financially. So that means all the income that we make this month, we don't touch it. We don't use it at all until next month. And so at the beginning of each month, we know exactly how much income we have to use that month. So we budget it out into our different categories. And then whatever's left over, we take a big chunk of that and put it toward the debt right at the beginning of the month. And then at the end of the month, we take whatever's left over in any of those categories. Like if our food budget's $300 and we only spend $290, we take that $10 and put it in the pot at the end, and then we put all that toward debt at the end of the month. So we do a beginning of the month and an end of the month payment. But yeah, living on last month's income has made a huge difference, because not only are we making sure we're putting every cent of extra money toward our debt, but it also gives us the peace and freedom. Even though we weren't debt free, we could still feel that peace of, being a month ahead, and not having to worry that if we put more towards debt, we're going to run out of money later in the month. So that was huge.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great suggestion about living on last month's income. And for some who may be listening, it may be a little bit difficult for them to kind of understand what you mean, because they're probably like, okay, so let's say you make $3,000 last month. You're going to make $3,000 this month. So why are you living on last month? But your logic is behind it is that now you're able to take out all your expenses, and whatever's left over, even at the beginning of the month, instead of you having to wait to the end of the month, you're able to throw that right away at the debt. And then any money that's left over at the end of the month in regards to what you saved in the expense categories, you're able to throw towards debt. So it's like essentially you're throwing money towards debt twice a month.
Right, and that gives us a 1 month buffer too. If something were to go wrong, like one of our cars breaks down and we need a new car, we can almost take a loan from ourselves, like use them. Anyway, it's kind of confusing without seeing a visual, but yeah, I actually, if you go to my site, you can download, if you go to sixfiguresunder.com/guide, you can download a free guide to getting a month ahead financially. It really has made a huge difference for us.
We will make sure that we include that link to that guide. If you are listening on our podcast, it will be in the show notes. Just go over to hisandhermoney.com. Look for this particular episode. It's there. And if you're watching it on YouTube, look in the description box below and we'll have it there. Great suggestion. Love that.
You guys were kind of like on the perfect track to the American dream. You got married, you had children, and now you're saving up for a down payment on the house. And then it's like, you put the brakes on and you completely change course. How did that feel? And how were you able to do that? Because most people in your shoes, that's a tough dream to postpone to pay off debt. How were you able to do that?
It is tough. It was a sacrifice that we just decided. We just changed our mindsets and changed our whole way of thinking, and just put all our eggs in the pay off debt basket and went for it. And I think it helps that we're open about it. We shared it with our friends and family. We told them what we were doing. People wonder, why are you living in your in-laws' basement? And, people ask about that. So we're just open right up front about it, that we're working hard to pay off debt, and, then we'll get a house. But I think sharing our vision with people helps. Not only helps us stay motivated, but helps get other people excited too.
Yeah, I lived in my in-laws' basement as well too for about 11 months, right?
Yeah.
And it was the best time, really. It really was. We enjoyed ourselves, and we were able to save a little money as well too, and we eventually purchased our second home. So I'm all for moving in with in-laws.
Everybody go to the basement.
Everybody go to the basement, okay? I was pregnant. We had 2 small children as well too, and we didn't feel crammed or anything. It was great. So I think a lot of times, people are in their own way. They hinder themselves and say, oh, I could never do that. But never say never. Give it a try if it's going to definitely help you. So talk about your in-laws a little bit. How were they when you guys approached them and said, you know what, hey, can we live in the basement because we're going to pay off this debt? How did they respond?
They were all for it. They're super supportive and just great people. My mother-in-law especially is really, wants us to get this paid off, and is grateful to have the opportunity to help us. Like, she's just happy helping us out. Like, it's great. And she loves, being close to the grandkids. She feels bad for my mom who doesn't get to see them, nearly as much because they live, 2,000 miles away. So she just loves the time with the grandkids, and loves that she is able to help us out in this way. They're great.
Great.
So it sounds like the perfect story. I mean, you just decided to pay off debt and you got out of debt, right? Wait, there has to be some obstacles that had to have come up along this 3-year journey that you went on. Can you talk about some of those obstacles and how you guys were able to overcome it?
I think one of the main obstacles from the beginning was just that my husband had a low income in relation to the debt. So when we started, paying this off, the numbers, just didn't work. When we said 3 years, it was kind of arbitrary. Like we didn't crunch the numbers and say, okay, we can put this much each month, and then we'll be done by 3 years. It was on faith. We were saying, okay, we want to get this done in 3 years. We don't know how it's going to happen, but we're going to make it happen. So just having the vision to see past what our current income was and see how we could increase our income while keeping our expenses low. And then patience. I think patience is always can be an obstacle, but yeah, you need the right balance of patience and impatience, because you have to be a little bit impatient, otherwise you'll be lazy. So yeah, patience with the things that you have no control over, and impatient with the things that you have control over, so that you're motivated to keep moving.
Great. That's great. So what type of impact did becoming debt free have on your marriage?
Well, like I said, we've always had a really good, strong marriage. But I think anytime you go through any sort of trial, it either makes your marriage stronger or it can weaken your marriage. And we choose to make us stronger, make our relationship grow. And I think because we set it as a goal that we were working together toward, that, we're on the same team, we're in this together, it strengthened us. And I think one of the things that we do really well that helps us is we always say we, not you. This is our debt. Even though I've never technically had any debt in my name, because we decided together that he would go to law school, we got in this together, and it's our debt. And we say things like, we need to reduce our grocery budget, or we need to figure out how to make more income, not you need to reduce the grocery budget and you need to go make more income or anything. It's always we're always in it together, and we're a team.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I hope everybody kind of took note of that, because it's going to be important, especially if you're getting out of debt and you're married. It's going to be important that you operate as a team. That's one of the tenets that we preach here hardcore at His and Her Money, is that if you want to win, you're going to have to win with your teammate. And you guys did a masterful job of displaying that and keeping each other in the game. And ultimately, you guys won because you guys became debt free. How were you guys able to stay motivated for these 3 years? There had to be some points where you felt a little less motivated than others, and I'm sure there was times where your husband was motivated and you weren't, and vice versa. So how are you guys able to maintain your motivation in those moments?
Well, I think you hit on a big part there, is that because we're a team and there's two of us, we can, we're not both going to be down at the same time. When one of us is down, the other one is up, and we lift each other up. Another thing is, because we put ourselves kind of in an uncomfortable position in the basement, like, it's great and we're so happy to be there, but at the same time, like, it's a small unfinished basement with our 4 kids. For example, because it's a basement, there's a step-up bathroom. So my husband, who's 6'7", stands like this in the shower, like he can't even stand up all the way. Like, constant reminders like that of our goal. I think if we were living in a different situation, we'd be more apt to be lazy, or to say, oh, well, we'll just let this slide, or we'll just go out and eat this once, or things like that. But because we have a constant reminder by our surroundings every day that we need to get this paid off so that we can buy our own house, it really helps to have that constant reminder. So, not everyone will be living in their in-laws' basement, but whatever it is, if you're cutting cable just for the time you're paying off debt, like, that makes you a little uncomfortable if you like to watch TV. So that just is a constant reminder. Every time you think, oh, I want to watch my show, you can think, hey, what can I do to start earning more money now? Or what can I do to get myself closer? Just a constant reminder of your goal is what helped us.
that. So, talk us through that moment when you guys paid off that last debt payment.
Well, honestly, I thought it was going to be more exciting than it was. It was kind of anticlimactic. But as I thought about that, I'm like, how come I don't all of a sudden feel like a new woman? But I think it's because it happened gradually over time, that the burden was just lifted little by little over time until all of a sudden we're completely free, you know? So it wasn't this huge moment. Oh, and I think another thing that makes it maybe not feel like a huge moment is that we're going hardcore to saving up for a down payment right now. So our finances haven't changed at all, really. It's not like we have all this extra money. We're still living super frugally so that we can buy a house.
That's awesome. Do you guys have any goals? Like how long, how many years do you want to take to save up for this house?
Oh, I'm hoping in like a year, within a year. But yeah, we live in California too, so it's super expensive here.
Yes, California is expensive, a little pricey there.
So I know it's new, it's fresh. You know, you guys immediately shifted into a new goal with your finances, but it's got to feel a little bit differently nowadays. Compare how life feels now that you're debt free compared to that moment when you ripped open that envelope for the first time and saw the balance that you owed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it just feels free, feels surreal. Like it's hard to imagine that it's real, but it is. But yeah, definitely way night and day difference from what I felt when we ran those numbers and saw how bad it was.
I can see you reminiscing. I can see it in
Yeah.
your eyes.
It's scary.
That's awesome. So what is the biggest life lesson that you learned during all of this?
I think the power of a goal. If we had gone into this and just said, we're going to try our hardest and we're just going to pay off our debt, we're going to try our hardest, we wouldn't be done now. But because we set that goal, we said we're going to do this in 3 years. We actually gave ourselves to the end of 2016. So we're early. We got done early. But if we hadn't set that goal, if we hadn't set a time frame, we would still be going. But having that goal has really pushed us and motivated us to keep trucking and keep going. And I didn't realize how powerful a goal like that can be.
Yeah, goals are super powerful.
Yeah.
So for somebody who's listening right now who is just starting out, how did you all calculate and figure out, let's do this in 3 years? And thus, how can the person listening right now do the same?
Well, you can do it two ways. You can either have the time frame that you want to get it done in and then calculate, I need to pay it this much each month to get it done, or you can look at the numbers first and say, well, I think I can make this payment. Oh, that puts us out at 5 years or so. For us, we kind of went on faith because the numbers were discouraging, and we knew that we needed and wanted to increase our income. So we didn't let the numbers hold us back. In fact, I said, how about 5 years? And my husband said, oh, that sounds too long. How about 3? And I said, okay, 3 it is. And I thought, even if we don't make the 3 years, we'll get a whole lot closer by trying than if we just said, oh, we're just going to try our best. So yeah, having a time frame is really a big deal. So I say just get together with your spouse and set a goal.
Now, when you guys set the goal of 3 years, what steps did you take to kind of track your progress along the way to see where you were in relationship to the goal?
So we kept a budget, and we also kept a spreadsheet where we kept track of our payments each month and how much we had remaining. Because at least for student loans, the student loan service provider had an awful website that didn't let you know anything that happened in the past, really, or how much you would have owed in the past. So each month we wrote down how much we paid and how much the loans would be if we were to pay them off that day, because they only calculate the interest if you say, pay off now. So we kept that in a spreadsheet, and so we actually knew how much the payoff amount was each month. And going back, it was really helpful that we had kept that, because there's no way to track that in the loan provider thing, dashboard thing. So I'm really glad that we did keep track of that. But yeah, just a spreadsheet.
Great, great. So tell our audience more about your website and how they can stay in contact with you at sixfiguresunder.com.
Yeah, so at sixfiguresunder.com, I share financial motivation and frugal inspiration, and help families pay off debt and live more frugally. And I actually started that right at the beginning of when we started paying off our debt. And each month I share our finances, like the real numbers of our income and how we spend our money and how much we pay toward debt. And I share other, ideas and inspiration for how to save money and how to budget and how to earn extra money. So, people who are going through the same thing as me, have been following along through our debt journey, and it's been great. It's really helped me to be motivated, and really keeps us in line. I think, man, I don't want to buy this because I'm going to have to tell my readers about this, and I don't want to let them down. So that's helped. Yeah, and if you want to stay in contact, I've got a 7-day free email course where I go through the 7 main steps we took to pay off debt, and that's sixfiguresunder.com/smash-debt.
We'll be sure to also have a link to that in the show notes. Just go to hisandhermoney.com to get that link. You know what, Stephanie? What if there's somebody listening to the show right now who would like to be where you are, debt free, but they're at the moment where they ripped open their envelope and they see their balance and they're just not sure that they can get it done. What words of encouragement can you offer to that person right now?
I just want to say that you can do it. Get ideas, encouragement, inspiration from others who have done it, but don't compare yourself. This is your journey, and it's not going to look like anyone else's. So don't get caught up in comparing. Maybe not everyone can live in their in-laws' basement like we could, and not everyone would want to, even if they could, probably. But yeah, don't let that get you down. There are advantages that you have. Just play toward your strengths and do the things that will help you, and don't get caught up in other people's journey. And set a goal. It's huge. You will get there way faster if you set a goal than if you just try hard.
Awesome. Stephanie, your story to debt freedom is super encouraging. We know our audience loved hearing all the details, and we're thankful that you took time out of your busy schedule to come on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
It's been great talking to you guys. You're such an inspiration to me.
Wow, wasn't that incredible? We told you that you guys would be totally inspired by her story, because guess what? If you're sitting there and you're 6 figures under with a bunch of debt, there is hope.
That's
Stephanie
right.
is a prime example that with focused determination on your side, you can get from under those 6 figures and come out free.
That's right. So if you are interested in getting out of debt and coming out on the other side free, then you can grab our free book, 8 Essential Steps to Getting Out of Debt, for totally free. Check the screen or look in the description box below.
Well, guys, that's all we got for this week. It's been great. Until next time. Peace.
Bye.